Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the very fabric of society is quietly unraveling before your eyes. Conversations feel thinner, entertainment rewards noise over depth, and people know more about celebrities than about the forces shaping their own existence. We live in an age drowning in information, yet starving for wisdom. So here's the disturbing question we must face. Why is society becoming more stupid every single day? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Stay with me until the very end, because the final insight I'll share is the most important one of all. It has the power to completely change how you see the modern world. But first, make sure you subscribe to this channel, leave a like, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments what you think about the state of society today. Your voice matters. By joining this discussion, you become part of a community striving to awaken from the fog of mediocrity and reclaim the clarity of true thought. Now let us begin. To understand why society is sinking into an abyss of superficiality, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. The very tools that promise to elevate human knowledge, technology, social media, mass education, are being used in ways that dull our minds instead of sharpening them. Think about the paradox. Humanity now holds in its hands the greatest library ever created, more knowledge than all previous generations combined. Yet attention spans are shrinking, critical thinking is eroding, and more people struggle to distinguish truth from lies. In our rush to consume information, we've forgotten how to digest it. Philosophers and psychologists warned us long ago. The German thinker Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the last man, a future being who avoids depth, clings to comfort, and rejects true thought. Does that not sound hauntingly familiar to our age, where convenience triumphs over wisdom? Likewise, Neil Postman, in his prophetic work, Amusing Ourselves to Death, foresaw a culture where entertainment would become the lens through which all reality is filtered, reducing even the most serious matters into spectacles designed to capture attention for a few fleeting seconds. But why has this decline accelerated so dramatically in recent years? One answer lies in how our brains respond to stimulation. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who studied the dual processes of thought, explained that humans prefer the path of least resistance, quick, easy answers over slow, deliberate reasoning. Modern society is built to exploit that weakness. Social media, advertising, even politics are engineered not to make us think, but to make us react. In this environment, stupidity is not an accident. It is manufactured. Consider the rise of viral trends, memes, and soundbites. They spread not because they are true, but because they are simple and emotionally charged. Contrast this with the ancient traditions of wisdom. In Plato's Academy, students spent years wrestling with difficult questions, refining their understanding. Today, our public sphere rewards those who shout the loudest, not those who think the deepest. Ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a trending video or headline that actually challenged you to think about life, society, or morality? How often do you encounter content meant to slow you down and provoke reflection, compared to the endless flood of distractions designed to keep you scrolling? This is the modern tragedy, an abundance of information combined with a famine of wisdom, and the consequences are dangerous. When people lose the ability to think deeply, they become easier to manipulate. That's why misinformation spreads faster than truth. Studies from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology reveal a striking truth. False news spreads faster and farther on social media than verified facts. Why? Because lies are engineered to be sensational and emotionally irresistible, while truth requires nuance, patience, and context. And in a culture addicted to speed, nuance is always the first casualty. This isn't merely a problem of personal ignorance, it's a collective decline. As public discourse collapses, entire communities lose the ability to reason together. Politics devolves into tribal shouting matches. Education reduces itself to test performance instead of cultivating wisdom. Entertainment glorifies outrage, scandal, and spectacle. In short, society begins to prefer the shallow over the profound, the immediate over the eternal. And yet, within this bleak picture lies an opportunity. Recognizing decline is the first step toward renewal. By understanding the forces dragging society into stupidity, we can resist them. By reclaiming critical thought, reflection, and meaningful dialogue, we can rise above the noise and rediscover the clarity that once guided human progress. But here is the challenge. This journey demands courage. It requires us to question what is popular, to resist the easy seduction of distraction, and to cultivate a mind capable of standing apart from the crowd. As the French philosopher René Descartes once said, "The greatest minds are capable of the greatest vices as well as the greatest virtues." The same tools that are dumbing us down can also elevate us, but only if we consciously choose to wield them. And that choice begins with you. Ask yourself, how do you consume information each day? Do you scroll endlessly, post after post, forgetting most of what you've seen? Do you let headlines, soundbites, and short clips shape your opinions on complex issues? If so, you are not alone. This is the default behavior society is being trained into, and it is one of the core reasons intelligence is being replaced by distraction. The Canadian psychologist Steven Pinker has written about how the brain adapts to its environment. When bombarded with short bursts of content, the mind rewires itself to crave brevity, even at the cost of depth. What was once a muscle, strengthened by practice, deep reasoning, patient learning, long-form reading, is now at risk of atrophy. The result? Populations capable of processing enormous amounts of shallow information, yet struggling to engage with anything requiring sustained attention. This isn't just an individual problem, it's cultural. Throughout history, societies revered wisdom keepers, philosophers, teachers, elders, voices dedicated to understanding the human condition and passing down hard-won truths. Today, those voices are drowned out by influencers chasing engagement. Algorithms reward popularity, not profundity. And so society confuses fame with wisdom, forgetting that one has never guaranteed the other. Even education has not been spared. In many countries, schools reduce learning to standardized tests and rote memorization, leaving little room for curiosity or independent thought. The philosopher John Dewey once said, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." Yet modern schooling too often reduces it to a checklist, training students not to think, but to perform. The consequences are profound. Generations conditioned to chase quick answers become intolerant of ambiguity. And yet, ambiguity is the birthplace of wisdom. Carl Jung reminded us that true growth comes from confronting our contradictions, embracing the shadow, navigating the tension between opposites. But in a culture addicted to simplicity, there is no patience for such depth. We prefer false certainty to complex truths that demand effort, and that addiction to certainty has been weaponized. Politicians, advertisers, and media corporations all know a simple truth. The average person is more easily swayed by confident, simple slogans than by careful, nuanced arguments. And so society drowns in sound bites instead of philosophies, in catchphrases instead of ideas. The cost of this is not just a dumbing down of discourse, it is the erosion of democracy itself. A population that cannot think critically is a population that can be manipulated. Reflect on this. How often do you see people argue passionately online about topics they barely understand? How often are comment sections filled with anger and certainty, but starved of evidence or reflection? This is what happens when society rewards confidence over competence. As Stephen Hawking warned, the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. But perhaps the most alarming symptom of decline is the loss of memory. In the past, cultures preserved wisdom through stories, traditions, and texts that lasted for centuries. Today, digital media bombards us with endless streams of content, but most of it vanishes as quickly as it arrives. What trended yesterday is forgotten tomorrow. The Spanish philosopher George Santayana once wrote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And in a society addicted to novelty, the past becomes irrelevant, its lessons drowned out by the noise of constant distraction. Yet within this crisis lies possibility. If stupidity spreads through habits of distraction and superficiality, then intelligence can be cultivated through habits of reflection and depth. We can choose to consume content that challenges us rather than numbs us. We can practice the lost arts of slow reading, deep listening, and meaningful dialogue. These are not merely private choices. They are acts of resistance against a culture that profits from our passivity. One simple but radical act is to reclaim silence. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard warned that busyness and noise prevent us from knowing ourselves. In today's world, silence is almost revolutionary. In the quiet, we reflect, analyze, and reconnect with our deeper selves. By embracing stillness, we resist the pressure to react and rediscover the ability to truly think. Another powerful act is to question relentlessly. Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, built his entire method not on answers, but on questions. Imagine if society returned to this mindset. Instead of rushing to judgment, we pause to ask, why do I believe this? Who benefits from me believing it? What evidence supports it? Such questions cut through the fog of misinformation and force us into authentic engagement with reality. But here lies the uncomfortable truth. Thinking for yourself is not easy. It is often lonely because it requires stepping away from the crowd. It can be painful because it forces you to confront illusions you once clung to. And yet it is precisely this difficulty that makes it so valuable. As Immanuel Kant declared, dare to know, have the courage to use your own reason. This is the essence of enlightenment, and it is as urgent today as it was in his time. So pause and ask yourself, are you living in a way that strengthens your mind or in a way that weakens it? Do you feed your intellect with wisdom and reflection, or do you allow yourself to be carried along by the current of distraction? Your answer to this question determines whether you are part of the problem or part of the solution. And this brings us to a deeper revelation, one that is unsettling but crucial to face. Society's stupidity is not merely accidental. It serves a purpose. For when people are distracted, unthinking, and divided, they are easier to control. The decline of wisdom is not just a cultural trend, it is also a tool of power, which forces us to ask, who benefits from a society that is distracted, misinformed, and intellectually weakened? The answer, though uncomfortable, is clear. Political leaders, corporations, and media conglomerates all benefit from a population that does not think deeply. A society addicted to noise and entertainment is less likely to question authority, less likely to confront injustice, and less likely to demand real change. Think about it. When people spend hours drowning in trivial distractions, their energy for reflection vanishes. When debates collapse into shouting matches, dialogue disappears. When citizens care more about celebrities than their own civic responsibilities, democracy itself begins to wither. The Roman poet Juvenal captured this centuries ago with the phrase bread and circuses. Leaders pacified the people with food and entertainment, while corruption rotted the foundations of power. Does this not sound hauntingly familiar to our world today, where endless streams of content keep us docile while deeper crises unfold in the background? The French philosopher Michel Foucault argued that power often operates not through force, but through subtle systems of control that shape how people think and behave. In our time, the most powerful of these systems is the manipulation of attention. Social media platforms are engineered to capture and hold your focus. Every notification, every like, every infinite scroll is designed to hijack your brain's reward system. And the more distracted we become, the less capable we are of true critical thought. But let's go even further. This decline of intelligence is not only about distraction, it is about division. A divided people cannot unite against the forces that exploit them. And what better way to divide society than to encourage shallow thinking and emotional reactions? Misinformation thrives in such an environment. Outrage spreads faster than understanding. Simplistic labels replace nuanced analysis. People retreat into tribal identities instead of engaging in reasoned debate. The American historian Christopher Lasch warned that modern culture promotes narcissism, a fixation on the self, on appearances, on instant gratification. And when people are absorbed in vanity, collective intelligence weakens. The pursuit of truth is abandoned for the pursuit of validation. And validation, in our world of likes, shares, and followers, is dangerously easy to obtain. Ask yourself, how often do you see public figures rewarded not for being wise, but for being loud? How often do influencers rise to fame not by offering insights, but by exaggerating, provoking, and sensationalizing? This is no mere cultural curiosity. It is a symptom of a system that values attention above truth. And when attention becomes the currency of power, stupidity becomes profitable. That is why Noam Chomsky once remarked, "Propaganda is to democracy what violence is to dictatorship." If you can control what people pay attention to, you can control how they think, what they desire, and what they fear. And the simplest way to control attention is to reduce complex realities into simplistic narratives that bypass reason and strike directly at emotion. But let us not make the mistake of blaming only external forces. The problem is also internal. Every time we choose distraction over depth, every time we prefer certainty over complexity, we become complicit in this decline. Society becomes stupid not merely because of corrupt leaders or manipulative corporations, but because individuals surrender their capacity to think. Yet within this uncomfortable truth lies an immense power. The very forces that weaken society also reveal the path to renewal. If stupidity spreads through distraction, then intelligence can be reclaimed through focus. If manipulation thrives on division, then wisdom can be rebuilt through unity. If superficiality dominates culture, then depth itself can become revolutionary. But this requires courage, the courage to resist the easy path. As Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, reminded us in Man's Search for Meaning, between stimulus and response lies a space. In that space lies our power to choose. In a culture engineered for instant reaction, the simple act of pausing, of reflecting before responding, is no small thing. It is rebellion. And more than that, it is freedom. So how do we resist the rising tide of stupidity threatening to consume us? The first step is awareness. You must see the strings being pulled. Ask yourself, why am I consuming this? Does it enlighten me or simply distract me? Who profits from my belief in this narrative? Awareness is the seed of wisdom. Without it, you are not awake. You are sleepwalking in a world designed to keep you numb. The second step is discipline. Intelligence does not sprout by accident. It must be forged. Discipline means choosing deliberately what you read, what you watch, and what you listen to. It means seeking out the voices that challenge you, not just the ones that stroke your ego. It means trading shallow feeds for books that demand effort, patience, and thought. Discipline is not glamorous, but it is the price of rising above the noise. The third step is dialogue. True wisdom does not grow in isolation, but in communities that hunger for truth. Yet today, conversations collapse into conflict, debates into screaming matches. Real dialogue, the kind rooted in openness, humility, and honesty, sharpens minds and expands horizons. Martin Buber called it the I-thou encounter, meeting the other not as an object to conquer, but as a subject to understand. Imagine how radically society could change if dialogue returned to this sacred form. Still, the question lingers. Is reversal possible? Or are we doomed to sink deeper into ignorance with each passing generation? History teaches us two truths, that civilizations rise and fall, and that wisdom is often buried before it is resurrected. But it also teaches us something greater, that renewal is always possible. The Renaissance was born out of darkness, rekindling the fire of ancient thought while blazing new paths forward. Could we be standing on the edge of another awakening? Perhaps, but the answer will not come from governments, corporations, or institutions. It will come from you, from individuals choosing depth over distraction, courage over conformity, wisdom over noise. For decline is not destiny. Decline is a choice. And just as decline is chosen, so too can renewal be chosen. Remember this, the gravest danger is not that society is getting dumber. The gravest danger is that you accept it as inevitable. The true tragedy is not the noise outside, it is the silence inside. The surrender of your own power to think, to question, to rise above the mediocrity that smothers the many. History has never crowned the majority as keepers of wisdom. Wisdom has always belonged to the few, the ones bold enough to live differently. Socrates was condemned for defying the illusions of his time. Galileo was silenced for truths that shattered authority. Martin Luther King Jr. was persecuted for dreaming of justice in a divided world. At every turn in history, the masses clung to comfort. And at every turn, it was the few, the daring, the defiant, who carried wisdom forward. Thanks for looking.